Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Take Your Points. I'm your host, Ronan Scott. And this week we're focusing entirely on the Antrim camogs and their intermediate championship success. Our guests are the captain Lucia McNaughton and defender Chloe Drain, who are going to talk about the incredible season and why they think they could be competitive next year at senior level. Chloe, Lucia, thanks for joining us and congratulations on the victory. It's an important result and we wanted to get you in just to sort of get a look back at the season and at the highs and lows and what really led to this year's victory and also why it was so important. But I wanted to start by asking you, what were the challenges in the earlier stage of the season, Chloe? What do you think, was there anything that you had to surmount, leading up to the championship?
One of probably the big things we faced all year was COVID. Even from, if we go back to trying to respond to our defeat last year, the way we done that was probably limited with COVID as well, because we were in the gym, or we couldn't get into the gym, a lot, so we were doing online Zoom sessions and things like that. So then coming up to it, the last time we played Kilkenny was, I think that was opening group game, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Kilkenny, and we played them at home in Dunloy, but we were missing 4 players that day, and that all came down to COVID as well. So that was a real reshuffling for the team, and especially even though that wasn't knockout and it was only the group games, but I think it was we wanted to start off on the right foot, so it was important we get the result in the day then. So I think COVID has been a factor all year for us, but it really, really did affect us, because it was, even in the group chat that week, girls were putting in messages and it was another one and another one and another one, and it was nearly demoralising, in your preparation for the game too, because it was just constant setbacks, so but thankfully we've the depth there and it got us through that. So.
What about last year? You lost the intermediate final, Lucia, to Down. How much of an effect had that on you during the lead up to this year's campaign?
Well, at the time we were obviously devastated, but now looking back, it was probably the best thing that had happened to us. So we played Down our first league match, and we beat them, which was a great day. It was a good start to the season. We obviously played them twice more throughout the year, and we couldn't get past them. But they're a really good team and big and physical, and it was great to have 2 good matches behind us before starting the championship. But obviously then just having the experience of playing at such a high level, they're obviously a senior team, playing against them and the pace that they play with as well, bringing that into the championship too, really stood by us as well.
Yeah, it just sort of shows you that how beneficial it will be to move up to senior level, isn't that right?
Yeah, well, I think it shows us that, we were kind of thinking to ourselves, we're not far away. Every time we played them, we did get closer. Unfortunately, it didn't go over the line, but we did get closer each time. So we were kind of we're not far away in their senior team. So I think that drove us on as well.
No game that we played them in this year looked like the final last year. Do you know, last year the final was completely, by the half time it was more or less out of our reach, wasn't it? Whereas that was never the case. And then we seen them doing quite well, and they were getting decent results. They only got beat, was it 6 points by Cork, I think. Yeah. Do you remember down in the senior championship, and we were maybe 1 or 2 off them, so it just showed that the gap wasn't massive there,
I think the hurt as well from getting beat by them too drove us on for the championship too, because we didn't want to get beat again.
One of the issues this year perhaps was changes to the team, injuries. Lucia, you were injured during the year, and I remember Paul talking to me about panel changes and moving players around. How big of an issue was that during the campaign?
Yeah, I think it was an issue, because I broke my jaw against Derry that day, and then it was 6 weeks before I was able to even train again, and then that was that week of the girls getting caught with COVID and having to isolate and stuff. So then I wasn't meant to start the Kilkenny match, do you remember? And then I did start then, basically I was probably a week ahead of schedule maybe, which wasn't a lot, but at the time it maybe was more, than it seems. But and then Maeve Conley was injured at the time too. What game did she get picked that injury up in?
She kind of had an injury
It's niggling on.
Yeah, it was niggling, and there was a few other ones broken fingers and things, and at the time you're oh, this is awful, but we had a good, as Chloe said before, good depth in the panel that you could bring people in, which was great. And then I think it showed you, so like Niamh was brought into full back, and then it showed you how well she played in full back, because normally she wouldn't really play there. So, and then other people got shuffled around, and then you've seen them in different positions, which I think was good too.
Yeah.
So although it's a negative that they're injured, other people got a chance as well, and that's whenever you take your chance.
Yeah. Is there any games that stood out? Chloe, was there any games that in the lead up to the championship, not the final?
Like a game, as you were talking there, I was thinking about was the Galway. We played them in the league semi-final. Do you remember down in Ashburn? And that was, I think, that was like a week after my surgery, I think. So that was probably our first game going in, and like Maeve tried to play that day for maybe like 5-10 minutes, and then she came off with an niggle too. So that was like because like, me and Maeve probably do a lot of talking in the back lines. That was both of us gone, and like the girls were unbelievable that day. Like I think that was one of our best performances that day, because like I remember Katie McKillop was playing corner back, and she was probably getting her chance, you know, and we hadn't been, want to say, that core 15 even last year, and then this year she got loads of game time, and like that day she was the one leading the charge at the back, you know, and that just showed the depth that we did have, because it was somebody else doing it, you know, opposed to the people maybe you always look to, you know, and she was unbelievable that day, I remember.
Why do you think that was? Where does that come from? Is it the development teams coming through, or do they already know you as players through club, or what is it?
Well, our team's so close this year, especially we are like all really good friends and all, but you can see like at training and that everyone is so like busting to get onto the team. So I think whenever people saw, right, here's my chance, they're injured, here's my chance for 2-3 weeks until they come back to get my position on the team. And I think then they were probably more confident coming in because they had trained, and we know each other also well too. So for like the likes of Katie coming in, she knew what her role was. She'd always been watching matches and things from the sideline, and she knew what she had to do. So then whenever they come in, you just have to do it. And she did. She played really well that day.
Like coming from like really good club training as well, like Katie could do that so seamless as well. Do you know that there was nothing? Because like I don't think there's anything. If you look at our bench probably and look at the people on the pitch, there's not very much between. There's, if anything, between, you know, which is good.
How important was the management? What role did they play to prepare you? Like, I mean, what sort of different things were they doing during the campaign to sort of set you up?
I suppose everyone had their own kind of individual role. So Paul and Jem, they got our stick work immaculate. With all the stick work drills and, you know, the passing and everything, they got us up to speed of what we needed to be doing. And then Dowdsy, she brought in Lucia and Curtis, which are our two strength and conditioning coaches, and then Dr. Noel Brick as well, a psychologist. So we were in the gym with them, and then obviously the psychologist with Dr. Noel Brick. So they both brought, you know, like they brought the hurling, and Dowdsy brought the strength side to it as well. So like a combination of it all was just a great mix. And because we would have went to the gym then one night a week, and then we would have went to the hurling 2 or 3 other nights a week as well. So it was a nice mixture too, and you know, just to keep yourself strong throughout the year.
Was it a step up from last year? Was the programs developing, or was it the same as last year, the preparations?
Well, I suppose because last year we only had like 8 weeks. You know, it was very tight, and I said this would be hard for any management to like think of a plan of what you're going to do like in 8 weeks. So it was a lot different because we had more time. We obviously had more matches as well to go on. I think the management did a brilliant job and did everything to a T this year, whereas last year we just didn't have the time, and we thought we were ready because we were doing well throughout the round robin kind of thing during it, and then just at the final we knew that we weren't. But this year we knew we were ready. We
started the league, remember last year before COVID, and we had good wins in that league, and then like the new management coming in got like all the players out and the players buy-in, I think, and then that probably encouraged those good wins. I think got everybody back after COVID, and then we probably didn't realise the potential we had as a team, you know, until we did kind of ride the storm last year. And then I think the final was one of them ones, everything was so successful right up into the final that we didn't know our weaknesses, and then I think we kind of reflected on those over the winter, and then that's whenever like Elaine probably put loads of things in place for us as well, you know, like our strength and conditioning and our psychology, just them wee things that we were missing from last year that allowed us to push on so much, you know, and just tap into, I suppose, a different team, I think.
Yeah, different training that we probably hadn't had before.
How important was the sports psychology element to it?
I think especially after the defeats from Down, like any final we had been in this year, we had got beat, and then the last final we were in last year, we were beaten. So I think for a lot of the girls, he helped so much, and you don't realise how much he's helping until you're on the pitch and you're like, oh, like you're thinking of all the different, like the advice that he's given you, like subconsciously you're just doing it. I found it very helpful, and I know a lot of the girls come out of it and be like, yeah, you know, just tell us, it just takes someone to tell you, and you're like, oh yeah, I know.
It's obvious things, but you just need to see them.
Yeah.
I think he just taught us how to think, even if it wasn't the things we talked to him about. He taught us how to like manage everything. That, you know, I think that was one of the biggest things that helped us this year, even especially probably because we were playing in Crook Park as well, and like we're so young and people hadn't done that before. Do you know? So I think even though we didn't overly address the whole Crook Park thing with him like a lot, we did a bit maybe, but I think it was all our other sessions just taught us how to manage other things that taught us how to manage that. Do you know?
Paul said that after the semi-final, the talk was a lot of us hadn't played in Crook Park, and that was something that was exciting. Now, he felt that he needed to move on from that and not focus on playing in Crook Park, and that was, I don't think it was a concern for him, but you know, it might have been an issue, but it didn't seem to be an issue.
No, I mean,
all, you know.
we were lucky enough we got down the week before to just walk around the stadium, and like whenever you went in, that's whenever you could have been like, oh, it's massive and look at the pitch and everything. So then by the time we got out on the All-Ireland day, then you're like, you know, you've done that. You don't have to look at anything anymore. You can just concentrate solely on the match.
Yeah.
And I think that actually helped us a lot.
Like I think we had our novelty day where it was all exciting and people were running about with the funds and all that carry on, and then like the next day we went back, it was just a dressing room and a pitch. It wasn't anything outside of that, and I think everybody, but I think that's something that's very easy to say in hindsight. You probably didn't know how people were going to react, you know, until after, but see now, whenever I think back, you know, even to the bus journey down and like we were in control of everything, I think, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, because a lot of teams would go down before to Crook Park, you know, and they would do that, and they would have did what you've did, yet they would still maybe have got blinded by the big day.
I think, you know what it probably was too, going back to like our hurt from last year. Like we had the big day that we talked about last year and all, whereas where did that get us last year? Do you know, whereas this year I don't think anybody wanted to be there for, apart from the right reason to win, you know. I really don't think Crook Park came into it at all and I don't know if it did for anybody, you know.
Even playing on it though, because I remember Maeve said to me, she was like I forgot I was on Crook Park, you know, because you got so into the match, and then you were just like, right, get the ball, get it up. And I think that probably happened to a lot of the girls then as well, because you were so focused on what your job was that it didn't matter where you, like, and we kept saying it doesn't matter where we are or who's there, you know, have to go out and play camogie like we've done for the past however many years, you know.
In the lead up to the final, what sort of things were you thinking about? What was the threats you expected from them, and what sort of, did you have an idea of where you wanted to play the game, or the way you wanted the game to, you know, pan out? Yeah,
I suppose we did know them from the first championship match. I think everything was so different with our team and theirs. We didn't focus a lot on them. We were just trying, like I said before, we were like trying to get our own performances every match. So we focused a lot on ourselves really rather than them. Would you say that? Yeah. I
think we did have the factor of, and that's probably where we helped ourselves manage the big day more, was because like Kilkenny and Crook Parks, you're going to get a storm. Yeah. Like I think we probably thought about that, but I don't know if we thought about much more past that.
Like we had our own game plan, kind of what we were going to do, and we just had to stick with it.
And what was that game plan? What was it? You know, what was the?
Well, I suppose it was trying to work to our advantage as much as possible. So we know, you know, our forwards are fast, so you need to get the ball to them as soon as you can. Creating space and making sure that you're always communicating. It's really the simple things, but it's just when you're out, and it's very hard to hear whenever you're in Crook Park. And you don't know it until you're actually on the pitch, and it's actually you're shouting at each other. Then it was more like communication and different things like that, which are so simple, but sometimes it just goes out the window when you're under pressure.
Paul did talk about that, about delivering of passes and moving the attacking sector, that final third. You know, was that an issue? Do you think that was an issue during the year?
Well, we did have was it around maybe the middle of the year we did start having conversations about like our quality of ball and things like that. And so that was something we probably had worked on, because like last year was very stop and start, so this year it was like continuing, and we could work on, like we had games that were stringing together too, so and like we were out maybe every week, so then at least like on a Wednesday we could actually see what was wrong and then fix it, just because like our forwards I think are frightening, like they're very it's an unbelievable forward line, so it was just like how can we facilitate this the best, and I think the quality of the ball in had to be good to allow them their best chance. So that probably was something we worked on, but we worked on that from the back up,
right.
because we were working
really
on like supporting ourselves on the way out and things like that, and I think just keeping the ball and things like that. So
do you agree, Lucy? Do you think that the attacking play improved and developed as the year went on? Did it get?
Yeah, and I think from Katrina, our goalkeeper, right, like full back, half back, I think once we knew what everyone was doing, and what their role was, it made the forwards' job a lot easier too, because there's always the thing, oh, I'm not getting a good ball in, blah, 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 but it is very difficult whenever the backs are obviously under a lot of pressure to deliver a good ball in every time. So it was about trying to get it to their advantage, rather than it's not going to go into their hand every time. But I think as the year went on and as we kind of practiced it at training and things, it did get a lot better from the backs the whole way out, and the support play I think made that a lot better.
Yeah. How important was the goal? Was it the key moment in the first half, or what would you think the key moment perhaps might have been, if there was a key moment?
I think it was maybe the goal definitely helped. I think it was getting those points all in a row though. Like once we got started, they obviously went 1-4 up, or 4-1 up. But at that stage I wasn't really like, oh, we need to get going here. I was like, we just need to start. We hadn't started, and then once me and Russian got a couple of them goal or points on the board, it really had, and then obviously the goal then just gave us that wee blanket that we needed.
I think the big turning point was whenever they missed the goal, and then a ball in a Russian, and she probably shouldn't have won it, and she did, and she put it over the bar. Like I think that was a big turning point for us, more even than the goal, because whenever the goal came, we had started to do us and started to play, whereas at that stage we weren't doing us, and we were kind of grappling with them at that stage. So but then I think that goes back to other games where we had been in every situation there was to be in, hadn't we? Like we took early leads, like we took a while to start, like we kind of had been in all of those, and we did always. I think that comes from us just being really close though, that we just trust kind of the process, and we know that we have got out of situations and we've pushed on, haven't we? So I don't think that, because so many people said to me there, like they think if Kilkenny get that goal, it would have been a different game, and I couldn't disagree more, because I'm like, no, we've probably been in that situation, we'd have just done what we'd done after it anyway.
And that's interesting, and that's why you were so calm. That's why you were, I presume you were calm as well in this sort of situation.
Yeah, I wasn't too phased by that. Like whenever Roisin took that point, I was like, that's us now. Do you know, it was just like, that's it, done now, and we push on. But like, even if that goal went in the net, I don't think I'd have felt any different to it go wide.
Like we had talked about other teams having purple patches, they're going to, and it's just about how much it's like damage control really once they're in it. So then I think once they missed their goal chance and then Roisin got that point, it was like, right, we've rode the storm basically, so like it's us now, it's our time for us to start, which is bad, because we tried to say, right, we're not going to wait for them to do what they do, but it worked out all right at the end.
And what about mood at half time? What was the sort of feeling in the change rooms, and was there I presume it was calm, was it, or what was the talk we were talking about?
We were in a good place. We had won the first quarter, we had won the second quarter.
Even like that second water break, we were quite well up at that stage, and you would have thought it was a draw. Like we were all like, this isn't done yet. Like we knew, and like we probably were safe at that stage, because there was quite a bit in it. Do you remember at that point at the second water break? But like it didn't feel like that, because I think we just wanted to do ourselves justice on the big day and keep, probably take every quarter, because that's kind of what we done too. Do you know?
I think after the Galway match and them coming back at us, and I said at the last 15 minutes, I think we were 10 up, or we were well up anyway, and I was like, the Galway match, they came back, they got a goal, like they could have got another goal from those threes that they had to, and I was like, that can't happen. Basically, it's like, it doesn't matter how much we're up by, we have to keep pushing on, because like it's Kilkenny and we're in Croke Park in the All-Ireland final, like anything could happen. So it was like, push on, like it's not over yet.
And then in the second half, were you at any point, were you confident that we needed, at any stage, or you said you were calm, but is there any stage in the second half where you thought, we've got this wrapped up?
I looked at the clock at 62 minutes and 30 seconds, so there was 30 seconds left in the match, and I was like, yeah, we've won this. That was the only time I said, oh, we've won this. It was only with 30 seconds to go, because there was 9 points in it, I think, so I was like, yeah, okay, I think we can, well, no, don't stop, actually, wait until 30 seconds and then we can stop.
I remember looking at the clock, and I'll not forget it. It was 58:55, and I looked, and then I took a wee dander around the square to myself and looked back up, and it was 58:56, and I was thinking, that clock needs. Because you know, whenever you want something so much, so you don't believe you have it till it's over.
It's over.
Do you know, like, so, like, and they did pose goal threats, like, a lot in that second half. You know, didn't they? Like, especially probably that last 15. That wasn't it last 15. They ran a lot on goal. Like, they were up in our half a lot.
Because they got the goal, and then they got the goal from the 21-yard free
as well.
And then the half back came up and scored a goal too.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
they were posing a lot of threat, but then we had worked hard to the end.
Enough to keep enough comfort in it. I think.
But you weren't worried, you know. But you said before, Chloe, that you'd been in all these sort of situations, so you were able to handle that sort of thing. Would that be correct?
There's like a feeling that you get, I think, during matches. Like, I think in the Galway match, you were like, oh, we are not in control of this. Like, everyone was everywhere. But I think in the Kilkenny match, we were pulled out a brave bit, like, whenever you look back on it. But there was never a stage that I was like, oh, we are not in control of this. Like, they're winning every ball. They're doing, because we were still winning ball. We were still posing threats too, as were they. So I think that's why I was kind of more.
I think that's the way we describe it, was like, I felt like we were in control the whole match. Like, I think it's because we had been in situations and came out of them, you know.
Immediate reaction afterwards, like, would you remember the moment whenever the final whistle went up and how you felt?
I think mine was relief, and then obviously
you just wanted to see everybody, I think. You just wanted to see the team that you suppose you'd worked hard with, like, so. It was class. It was special, like, wasn't it? It was class.
You just wanted to hug absolutely everyone, just run around the whole pitch and hug everyone.
Was it a surprise? I mean, was it, you know, were you shocked that it had happened, or as you say, was it relief?
I wasn't shocked. I was just like, I can't believe it has happened, because it's something that you dream about every day, like, whenever you're, even now. But I wasn't shocked that our team, because I knew our team was good enough to do it, and like, I don't want to sound like big-headed or anything, but we knew we had the power there to do it. I was just more like, this is absolutely amazing, and like, you just kind of looked around and took it in for about 10 seconds, and then you got whisked away for the presentation, so you didn't have much time.
It was just like, even in the week up to the game, I was like, the only thing that worried me was that we didn't perform, because I knew if we just performed, we would win, because like, our team was very good. And I don't mean that being like you're saying they're like big-headed or arrogant, but it was like, if we didn't perform, we just wouldn't have fulfilled our potential. Whereas I think it was just like, we done it, we fulfilled our potential on the big day, like, and it was a good feeling, like.
And do you remember that night, or what sort of celebrations did you do, or what was the celebrations like afterwards?
We didn't get to spend much time on the pitch, so we went into the change rooms and they celebrated in there for a while, and then we went to the Carrickdale for food, and then straight onto the bus into Ballycastle, and then, like, fair play to our fundraising committee, then they had us organised. We went on to like a wee lorry, and we stood up there and sang songs, and then like, all your family was down looking up at us. It was really class. It was brilliant, with all the Antrim banners and everything going around. And I remember actually the Green Glens of Antrim came on in Croke Park too, which was
that was cool.
That was cool.
And what have you been doing since? Like, what sort of things has happened in the time since the final?
Well, we've kind of been flat out. I suppose a lot of the clubs, we go around the wee training sessions, you know, for the girls, and then the schools as well, just to go in, and it's actually really nice to see them, you know, because they're buzzing. Like, and as Chloe said before, there was a lot of them at the matches. So then they're all saying, "Oh, I saw you in Croke Park," and oh, it could be their first time in Croke Park as well. And what a time to remember their team winning the All Ireland, you know. So we've just been out around the clubs, kind of, and schools as well.
Yeah, around the schools and the clubs, and it's been busy, I think, because then we won on the Sunday, and then sure, club championship started then less than 2 weeks then, because we were playing on Saturday. So just back to training as well, and then as well as then on your free nights, I suppose you were trying to go to the clubs and things like that. So it's been nice though, because like, I think you don't realise until you go to it how buzzing the children and all are, like, and like, they all watched it, and they were all, like, so many of them were down at it. Do you know, like, there was, I think that was something surprised me actually as well down in the Croke Park that day. Like, whenever we done something, even if it was a hook, a block, or a score, like, the crowd noise, like there was a lot down supporting us too, so that was really nice, I thought.
Yeah.
What sort of things have they been saying to you, like in the clubs? I mean, the kids, what are they saying to you?
They always just say that I'm the favourite over Lucia.
Aye.
No, but they do. But they've been saying like they seen you on TV, and you know all them wee things are like, do you know. But then even whenever the coaches always open up to question and answer and stuff, like some of the questions they ask are so good.
Yeah.
Do you know? Because like they're obviously thinking like long term of, do you know, it might be like how many nights we train, or or like
what's your most important drill and things like that. There, yeah.
Yeah, like some of the questions they come up with I think are so good.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I don't know what to say.
So with that in mind, what do you think the victory will mean for Antrim? How important is this in terms of, promoting the game? And
I think it's massive for like the clubs. Like so we went up to St Gall's and they had just started a camogie club this year, and the girls were saying, it's massive for them wee girls to see what they can achieve then whenever they've started just this first year. And I remember somebody else was saying to me that their wee niece had no interest in camogie at all. I think maybe they went down to the match and then that evening, or they must have watched the match, and then that evening she was out in the yard with her stick, and her no interest at all before. So I think that's kind of what you want to do, isn't it, whenever you're playing, to kind of inspire the younger ones to play, because it's so great, and to show them like even though like maybe they're not winning much, like going up, that you can actually aspire to be in Croke Park.
Yeah, and what about potential next year? Like how much are you looking forward to competing at the senior level?
I think everyone's chomping at the bit, aren't they? Like, I think everyone just is looking forward to getting together as a group again as well, aren't we? Like everybody we're obviously all back at our clubs, and I think that's where everybody's head's at the minute, but then it is like we know then once that's done, I think it'll be regrouping then, kind of pushing on them for next year, so I think we do realise the work we have to do to get up to next year. We probably need to have a bigger winter than we even did last year, so I definitely think the buy-in's there, because if you're chatting to like if I'm chatting to other players that are different clubs and stuff, like they can't wait to be back and things like that, so I think that's a good sign, because people just don't want it to end, I think now,
Yeah.
And how difficult do you think it's going to be going up to that level, Lucia?
I think it's a massive step. Whenever you see the Galway and Cork match after ours, like they're really strong, and unfortunately our team's very small, so we have to kind of try and make up with it, and like obviously getting ourselves strong, but getting our stick work and everything so much better, to try and get around them. I think it's a big challenge, but it's one that we're all kind of willing to buy into. Even from now, obviously we're back at the clubs, but we'll be wanting to get ourselves better for our club now, and then that'll hopefully carry over then on to next year too. But I think if we can get the buy-in for next year, and just because we're still in the Division 2 league, so it'll be nice to there'll be still really good competitive matches in that to set us up hopefully for championship too.
Yeah. Like I think we have goals already that we want to achieve next year, probably, don't we? Like whenever you mentioned the Division 2 there next year as well, and then we've seen what Down done as well. Like Down had like a successful year probably up in their first year in senior, and then like I think if we could be in the situation Down are in now, because we are so young, if we could go up next year and compete and stay up, like things can only get better then, in the senior ranks, because hopefully we just keep progressing then and fine tuning.
And do you think that it will inspire like other counties, like the likes of Derry and that, to push on as well?
Yeah, definitely.
I think so, big time. Like I think the potential's just sitting in Derry waiting to be used probably, I suppose they're maybe where we were a few years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know?
How important is the rivalry between like the likes of Antrim and Down and Derry? How important is that in order to push the thing on?
I think for us it was very important, because I don't think it would have mattered if it was Down or whatever team it was, but maybe just because they're so close to us, like getting beat at any stage just drives you on as well. But I think it's good to have good competitiveness within the province too. Because you'll be playing with them like in the Ulster Championships as well, so you'll be wanting to keep it as competitive as possible, but obviously you still want to be the best.
Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic achievement. I do think it's massive for Ulster to show that both Antrim and Down can get up to senior level, and it just shows that Ulster doesn't have to be scared of any team. Like they can go out and compete with anybody.
I think it's brilliant. Like the amount of people who say to you, it's great that you're keeping the game alive up there, and you're like, okay, but now then for us to show that like there's two teams in Ulster who are in the Division 1, you know, I think we are a force to be reckoned with now. So
Yeah.
it is great to have.
It's probably though as if you're constantly having to prove that though. Do you know? Like, isn't it like it's? Because I'm kind of like, why does geography come down to it? Why does why do we get? Oh, you're keeping it alive up there. Like, why are we different? Do you know? Like, you know.
Yeah, well,
we do the same training and the same work. Do you know? It's not the same sport.
I interviewed Gráinne McGulick recently, and she said the same. She said that there was often felt that Ulster teams would go down with a sort of inferiority complex, but she never felt that was the way. She just loved to, you know, compete with those teams and just prove them, because she often felt that whenever she played them, they maybe sort of underestimated that Derry whenever she was playing for them. I know that could be the case, you know, going forward.
Well, I don't mind being like them thinking or being complacent or whatever, because like we know what we have, and I don't mind going in as an underdog either. I think it's just a thing that we're always having to prove ourselves even more.
See, even saying that though, like we probably were backed for this. We were back big time for that, you know, and like everybody I think was kind of had us pinpoint it, you know, even like early doors is probably big favourites for the intermediate. But I think like going forward, I think us and Down will have good battles in the senior, hopefully with all our senior teams as well. So,
in conclusion, I suppose it's an exciting time for Antrim Camogie and an exciting time for Ulster Camogie. But Lucia, Chloe, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it, and congratulations on the incredible victory.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
That's brilliant.